Haptics Club 19, we are hosting our guest speaker, Antoine Weill-Duflos, Director of Research and Product Integration at Haply Robotics. He'll be discussing how his team is building haptic devices for medical simulation and how they are working to facilitate access to force feedback devices and haptics in general, and how the knowledge of haptics perception and illusion can play a role. Of course, this is brought by your trusted crew with Manu, Eric, Gijs, Irina, Ashley, and Sarah. And we have a great announcement for today. We are launching our Discord community. So it will be the first focused haptics community on Discord that we are launching today. We will be posting the link in the chat, and you will be able to interact with your fellow haptician. So you're all welcome to join. With this, I leave the mic to Ashley for the set of questions to make Antoine share his knowledge.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for that great warm welcome to everyone. And yeah, super excited for our Discord channel. So many awesome things to talk about and news to share around haptics. But Antoine, thank you so much for being here. Such a huge fan of yours. You know, we've nerded out many times about haptics, and I'm so grateful that you're here, that you can share with our audience so many amazing stories. But just to kind of kick us off, we love to do this kind of quick 5-minute introduction. As you know, we recently had Vincent Hayward on, so this seems like a really perfect kind of continuation of that chat, knowing some of your background. But for anyone who doesn't know, can you share just like a quick intro of who you are and how you got started in haptics?
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Thanks, all of the crew for having me here. I've been a huge fan of that podcast, and I'm happy to be able to participate in it. So, quick introduction on I guess I will go for like how I got started in haptic. I was doing my engineering classes, and I enrolled in a class about virtual reality in my robotics specialty, and I was like really into VR, like into making. I wanted to do like those like VR games, you know. It was funny. But that class was actually a trick. It was about haptic. We never like saw any VR stuff, but the professor was actually your previous speaker, so Vincent Hayward, and he was, I guess, so passionate about the subject that it was like contagious, and I was taking that for extra credit, so not really like a very important one, but yeah, I loved it. I did my PhD on the topic then. Quickly after my PhD, I moved to Montreal to work at McGill and joined Haply to work on robotics. So that's sort of like my last years working in the haptic field, which is about a decade now since I started. Yeah, I guess that's me.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great intro and very cool. Your connection to Vincent Hayward. That's interesting that you say it's like it started as one thing and then kind of turned into something else that you unexpected. That's a really cool start. Let's jump into area of expertise. We've got 15 minutes for this. Can you tell us just a little bit more about Haply Robotics? In particular, it mentions the PlayStation for haptic surgery, which is like, that gets me super excited. So tell us, a little bit about Haply.
Yeah, excited to do so. So Haply, I would say like, I actually go a bit broad and not just like directly to surgeon, but the idea of Haply is that we're a team of passionate people about haptics. So like that's clearly something that you can feel when you walk into the office. There's really a fire, like, and we want to touch lives, or make, touch alive. We want actually to create. So we are creating a haptic device, and the ultimate goal that we want in that company is to have more and more people working with haptics. That's the thing. Now about the PlayStation for surgeon. We're familiar with like that. There's a market opportunity here. Like there's a lot of content that has been done more like on the VR or metaverse, you would say, aspect of things. And there's company like Fundamental VR or like VRTZ, to name a few, but there's plenty more that are working on in those awesome simulation in VR that looks really good and have lots of interaction, real-time physics and everything. And what we want to do is create a precision interface display for that sort of like medical metaverse, what we actually at Haply call the Mediverse. Essentially, we create those haptic device that will integrate with the simulation, and could be like, you buy the Haply sort of like a PlayStation for surgeon. Yeah, that's the idea. Like you buy that, and then you can load the simulation because we work to integrate those simulations. So it's a seamless process for you. Maybe you can rent a simulation if you want to train. Could be different models, or like I won't go too much into those details, but and the device itself, not only does it provide you some haptic feedback, which I will go back, also like it's a really precise in the tracking. So if you're trying to see some performance indicators and you want to see how precise you're doing in the simulation, your control actually not that precise. Like, okay, when you play with it, but if you're trying to measure something super like precise, it's still a bit off. And all like robots has some advantage on that. It's like sub-millimeter precision, so it's like, but what you would want to see in the surgery. And I will just like finish by saying about answering the question on why. Like I know that Vincent said in the last podcast that it's all about visual for surgical thing. And so on that, I would say, I guess all of us have tried VR here. And if you had the chance, like, I don't know for you, I will actually ask the question to you as well. But to me, like playing with something in VR and not being able to touch it, it's just like super frustrating. I've seen like a hand interaction with Rubik's Cube and it doesn't feel right. I can go through it. It's like, it's not a real object. So I think right now we are like, there's been a shift in technologies and we're trying to build technologies that are like designed to work in VR, that are designed to be, we do have also like a big difference with like previous haptic interface. I would say the size, like right now that's what we are talking about. It's a big Harry Potter book, sort of what we say. So you can bring it, you don't have to have a dedicated space for it. It can be working everywhere. So yeah, what I thought, like, do you think we need haptic in VR or not?
That's a tricky question to answer. Of course, I would say yes. I mean, we do that in life. that is for sure. I don't know. Maybe there will be in the questions. So maybe David Parisi that will ask something different. But we'll wait for the question and answer section.
Yeah. And for just anyone who's listening who maybe didn't catch the last episode, Vincent Hayward was mentioning that, was kind of disputing that surgery doesn't really benefit from force feedback training because it's mainly visual. So that's just some more context for that little topic there. But it was great to get your take on that. Absolutely. In terms of the haptics community, the past 10 years have been really focused on vibrotactile, and there's a lot of push for skin indentation. What's the rationale behind this push and for this kind of portable platform? You had touched upon it, but let's dive a little bit deeper.
So that's sort of also like my, I mean, I've seen that beforehand. I would say like when I started my PhD, I started a PhD in force feedback, and you could see that everybody, and I would actually point to Eric as well, was looking into newer stuff. Like I think Eric was working on surface haptic at that point, and you see all the paper I would see will be from like 20 years ago, like it was old tech. Everybody it was called force feedback initially, and calling it haptic. It was not a really new technology, but I think part of the interesting thing is there's been like progress in what we can do with it. It's also like part of the feeling. I mean, who doesn't like to have a force feedback when you're playing a driving simulator? Yeah, you know, that's part of it. You want the vibrotactile, but you also want to have like that push that's actually like making you feel the actual forces. And so there's like already like a few players that are like well known for anybody that would just want to buy a haptic device in the field, like currently. And I think what we can, but the new aspect that we can deliver is also like there's what I said before, like portability and everything, but also we are thinking about what do you want when you're working in VR? How do you localize your haptic device in a VR space? How do you make sure that it's going to be like all those new interaction paradigms are going to be covered? And I think there's plenty to do as a research here. There's plenty of question into how do you stabilize the device? So that's going to be, I won't go too deep because it's going to be a bit tricky, like I guess for like general audience. But when you're playing with a active force feedback device, you're essentially pushing the user, and if the user let go, well, the robot still pushes for a millisecond, and so you get those like oscillation that get into instabilities if you're not controlling it in the right way. And there's plenty of research still to be done into how can we find a clever way of interacting with that. One of the cool things that we do, and I think we are probably like the only one to do it, is our controller arm as actually the end effector is a gimbal that you can lock standard like haptic controller to it. So we do create those small attachments. So you use your off-the-shelf VR controller and you integrate or like force feedback haptic device, and the controller does already have vibrotactile. So you don't necessarily like, we're not just saying, oh, we discard vibrotactile. Yeah, we will integrate vibrotactile in a way, but you can still use a like off-the-shelf component and just add the force feedback on it.
I have a question here, Antoine. I have the chance to work a little bit into the standardization process with 3DS systems devices like the Touch or even the other one, the highest one, and you are taking in a different mechanical strategy to drive the device itself. So you have basically a double arm. Maybe you can even show it to the folks. You have a double arm, and you're driving. You're driving the final in that way. And basically these devices takes the same market niche that you are trying to address with that you want to address with this platform, because they are they're not maybe as portable, but still you take them by hand, they're not really heavy, and they have this stylus approach, and you can put things on it if you would like it. Is there what's the difference? Because pretty much all of that haptics device were built in the same way. They had one arm, and they were driven in that way. They have some different ability to drive forces in different axes. But what's the difference between these platforms and the other one? I mean, do you have reduced cost based on smart mechanics so that you can address a larger market? Do you target maybe universities with that due to this lower market, or these trade-offs really have a huge impact on the haptics performances of these devices?
So yeah, you're bringing like I guess the 3DS is probably our direct competitor on many of the applications that we're targeting. It's some of our clients, that's what they previously worked with, and they have feedback on that and what they dislike about it. I think I guess the Touch is small. You could say portable in a way, but it's not like if you were to go to a conference with it, you would still bring a Pelican case. You know, I haven't seen research on not doing that, and that's where we have like we want really to go away from the Pelican case. And well, I do have a reputation of making it hard for device inside the company, but when I brought the device home yesterday, I just put it in my backpack, just like that, no protection, and it's fine because we have that, as you mentioned, we do have that mechanism, that 4-bar links for the arms, but we made them like foldable, so you can actually fold it, attach it. It's locking the device, so it's in a safe state. We do have we chose to have a very small footprint by using a type of camera plate to secure the device. So you can actually use a tripod if you want. You can. I'm clipping it to my table, which is like super secure without needing to have a large base. We do have a lot of work on the software side that I mean, I'm actually doing a Twitch stream later today, so that's going to be my the highlight of the Twitch stream, seeing how easy it is to connect. Because if you worked with a haptic force feedback device, by the time you're able to start to do a demo, usually there's been like minutes, hours of like driver installation, getting the right SDK, getting the right tools to make it work. And we are really focusing on making all of this as easy as possible. Essentially, almost plug and play. Like you plug the device, you select your device in your like Unity simulation. We are working with Unity currently, but it's going to be the same with Unreal and all the game engines. We're working on that. And then you got everything. We also have like a lot of tool to get insight on the device to just ease. We really want less technician people to be able to use a device. Somebody that doesn't really have to know the nits and grits on how it's working. Like as you said, that 4-bar mechanism, all those things. There's a lot of technical details about that. We don't want the user to be bothered with that. We want just them to be able to just send a force the way they want it.
I mean, I did experience this pain multiple times, and I was not to make it function, the TouchX on my PC, and I had to revert back to the older Windows version. So I understand the pain, I understand the problem that you're addressing. But maybe let's
it's
focus
good
a
that
little
you're
bit
the
on
one saying it.
Yeah. I'm building interrupted, but don't talk about me. Speak about you. I know the pain. Question is, I mean, we discussed about surgery. I mean, by hearing your product, I make a link for other company that I know that in some kind of way are democratizing robotics, specifically for the academic market and for these kind of, let's say, integrators, innovation centers that they would like to experiment. Because force feedback today, it's really hard to experiment with. You need the specialized people, you need the physics engine, you need actually years and years of experience in the field. Is some of your target market also outside the surgery are academics for research and let's say innovation centers for having people iterate and experience potential new use cases thanks to the force feedback?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's what I said like before. Like I am going to go back onto the description of the company. Like we want to touch lives. Like we're not like we're developing. We have like collaboration with surgeons. We've got collaboration with medical centers to understand the needs and be sure that we adjust with them and we have like a really suitable device for them. But we also have people working from academia that wants to use our devices for assistive technology for visually impaired people, for instance. And we're not saying, oh no, you're not a surgeon, you cannot use the device. No, clearly not. That's everybody that wants to use our device is welcome. Like it's it in the end it's a very like it's a precise small form factor and not crazy expensive force feedback device. You get a lot for what you pay for, I think.
Let's not share the price, but let's share the range. on which range you are. You are in a Oculus Quest range, you are on a Vive Pro range, or are you in a Vario range? More or less, if you can share.
I don't know the price of all those. I would say probably the Vive Pro would be like the
Okay.
You know, it's yeah, probably a bit more than an Oculus.
I mean, I would love to play fishing with these things.
I could say
a fishing game would be fantastic in VR.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely some games are fantastic, and that's I mean, yeah, and for all of that, that's also like where we can actually like we do have also like other products that are more like for academia. We've been working with so I've been part of the program called Haptic, and you interviewed, I think, Asti Seifi that was not part of that, but actually referred to it, I believe. And that's across Canada. Like there are several institutions: UBC, Waterloo, McGill, ATS. Am I forgetting one? University of Manitoba, and it was sort of an online class, and they were using one of the other device that we create at Haply. That's more in the Oculus Quest range. It is not as, as performant as our like top line. Clearly, we have to make some concession. But for anybody that knows the price of a single motor in a haptic device, that's how much we sell the full device. That's sort of like
I like how you're dancing around that. You're dancing, and we get
you
it.
can't
say
it. No, but I think that's great. I mean, that gives, accessibility from a price range. It opens a lot of doors because allows who wants to experiment to do that before they couldn't. And this is the same things that happened in VR. Before, maybe a VR headset was 10,000 euro or dollars, and then it came down to the $1,500 range, and then gamers, developers worldwide get crazy thanks to Oculus, and they kickstarted an industry. I mean, price accessibility is always an enabling factor to test the new use cases that before they couldn't be tested. So hopefully, ideally, this I hope it plays out well, and you find a few niches where you can thrive and you can kickstart a new market. And the way is to be able to put it in the hands of devs and hands of researcher to play with it. And that's, I think, it's a good strategy. Ashley, let's move on to the future of haptics.
Oh, wait! Before we move on,
Apologies.
I want to touch up on something. I'm stealing it back because I really want to make sure that we cover kind of that area of play, and that's something that in the area of like haptic illusions, and it's an interesting space because it ties into what you do and what you're focused on, but it's also in kind of an area that's more in the area of like magic, where people don't really understand. Dive into maybe some of the projects you're working on, and maybe just like a high-level overview for someone who maybe doesn't know what a haptic illusion actually is.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, happy to share about that. And that's something that's working with Vincent Hayward in the beginning. Like he was that may be one of the epiphany moments that I want to work in that field because that's so cool, being able to do that. So he has a lot of experience in that domain. He has a lot of very nice mechanisms that share haptic illusion. But in a few words, haptic illusion it's the same as a visual or auditory illusion. Instead of tricking your eyes or like your ears, we are tricking the sense of touch. And you're going to feel something that isn't true. One of the simplest one is when you cross your finger and you touch your nose. You have that impression that you're touching. You have like two nose or something. It's a bit weird. That's a simple haptic illusion that you can do without any apparatus. The big issue with haptic illusion is that it's not as easy as having a book and opening and looking at pages and seeing optical illusions. So you need to have some mechanism, and that's why like accessibility on that is a bit tricky. And that's where I can plug that we were working at McGill with Pascal Fortin on essentially getting all the illusion that Hayward shared in his paper and making sure that we could create 3D models that user could 3D print and show in classrooms to give access to children to that knowledge that haptic illusions are things and they are cool and haptics is cool itself. But also having that knowledge about haptic illusion is quite important for researchers or for people making haptic devices like we do at Haply, because knowing how the sense is actually working allows you some flexibility. For instance, I was saying like motors are an expensive part of a haptic device, and when you're trying to reduce price, you're going to try to reduce that the price of the motor. So maybe you want a less performant motor, but if you want to get the same perceived performance, that's where you're going to try to play all those tricks. So if you know about an illusion that could help you achieve that, can help you make your device not overheat because you're trying to push it to its limit all the time, that's where it's really interesting from an industry point of view. There's a lot of way to play with the senses. Some are just like as simple as some are not actually haptic illusions, so are more like the multimodal aspect. If when you're hitting something, I play a sound that sounds hard, you're going to tell me that thing that you hit was hard, even if it was the same as, or maybe a bit softer. It's just going to help you, like the visual feedback, like the juiciness of that simulation also going to help you. So there's a lot to play around, but yeah, we can also play, knowing how the sense of touch works helps a lot because we can play some illusions. And that's maybe part of the thing that we have also, like compared to device like 3DS, because we are trying always to get to that new things that we see. Like we go to academic conference, we see what else, the new things we play, we work with researchers to discuss what they found and how it could be useful, how we can get a device that's really like cutting edge technology. That's still, we still invest in it. We don't have a I think the design of the 3DS system hasn't really changed in the last 10 years. I hope I'm not saying something wrong here, but that's my experience with it. It's been like it's here, and it's the same. It was the same 10 years ago, and we don't want to be like that. We want to actually improve and having new features.
Awesome. I love that so much. There's probably a lot we could unlock and unpack there, but I think that's a really great kind of brief for people. They're probably going to have questions of like, well, start thinking about, well, what actually is real versus what is actually either multimodal or just like completely playing a trick on me. So I love that so much. But yeah, let's jump into the future, because I'm sure we're all super curious about your thoughts there. So let's jump in. Where do you see haptics in the next 5 years within this domain that you're working within?
So within the next 5 years, what I want is actually, I think there's a lot happening currently. Kudos to the standardization efforts in the haptic community and all of this that will make haptics as a whole more like accessible. It's going to be easier for everyone to develop haptics because you won't have to develop to all the platforms. So maybe I think that's pretty Eric's job at some point to do that. Some of the stuff could be developed for a 3DS system, but also for a Haply system. But overall, what that means is that people will have like less trouble using all the haptic system. And I want, I want to see haptics to the classroom. I was clearly lucky to be working to be studying at the university that Vincent Ewart was, because I got access to all the haptic devices. Honestly, that was like, we had like almost unlimited budget on that. It was so I played with all the like really nice toys, and I was spoiled. I did not realize that until discussing with people that did not. and that's part of the why like of three co-founder like founded Haply. They wanted to create. They were a bit frustrated learning about haptics, but without being able to try it on devices. And it's not that complex to make one haptic devices. So that's how it started, the company. And I think that's what I want to see. I want. I have kids. They love playing with all haptic devices. They like honestly seeing them just play with it. You're like, well, it should be a thing. Like they're like, if a 3-year-old is able to just like in a few minutes just play a game and is so excited about it, we should have like haptic in the classroom. When I was doing my PhD, we were like thinking about all that kind of really easy to get physics stuff like atoms interaction, molecular interaction. If you can actually touch it because there's a haptic device in the classroom, that's going to be like a game changer. Like you won't have that sort of like balls that are like attached with tubes and that are not a good representation because it's dynamic, it's moving all the time. So bringing what I see in the like what I want to see as a future is more accessibility to haptics. And I will finish that statement by saying I also want as part of that accessibility less haptics to be less of a technician things, because I think most of us around that room could be called like more like engineers or like technicians. We know how it's working under the hood, but haptics is it's cross domains, and we would benefit a lot from people that doesn't need to know how it's working, but have insight about psychology. We want more artists working with haptics, creating like being able to create art. Haptic art should be a thing as well. I think it's really cool, and will be really useful for a lot of things because, for instance, if you're injured, you've got nerve injury. In order to heal that, you need to get a lot of stimulation on your nerves. And if you look at daycares with children, some of the novel like pedagogical content is they have those tactile boards with lots of different textures that baby plays with, because that's how you learn. That's actually, so I want haptic devices to not be a thing of like for us like research or engineers. It should be something that anybody could use. That's my future, I guess.
I mean, everyone is using telephones and PlayStation, so in some way or form, they already have. I think it's about creating with them. It's much harder.
Yeah, I meant creating, but okay. Yeah, you're right about the using thing. Thanks for like.
No, it's just it makes sense. But I agree with you. The creation problem is it's definitely something. And let me maybe ask you something. I mean, you know that this afternoon you have this stream about checking the software that you are going to share. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? What is the problem that this software is addressing that you're seeing on your user and on your market?
It's well, that's more about I mean, I think documentation. We need to create some documentation for our devices. We are like currently shipping our alphas to customers, so that's freshly made. So all the things need to be done, like seeing how what are like the pain points for user. Hopefully none, but we're trying to ease all of that, and part of that idea is I think currently like there's a lot of software documentation that goes through videos, and we want to have like that kind of Twitch stream thing, because there could be a bit of a audience questions that shapes a bit the way we go, because we obviously all of us at Haply we know how the device is working, so we start. If we just do a video, we have a path in mind and we know where to go, but maybe like user will have questions that are like, I think like that's interest with the Twitch stream is that you could have a question that you would not think about because you're tainted being not a naive user, So we know where to go, but we also want to show a bit. it's a good advertisement for our platform because it's really easy. Like, I'm not really a Unity developer. Like, my background is really more like mechanical engineer, so I know how to hack stuff together in Unity, I would say. But with the current state of our platform, if I want to run a simulation in Unity, I'm able to. It's actually quite simple, and I would be set. If you were to give me, I guess, if you were to give me your computer, that would be like nothing from Haply. Just your computer, Unity installed, because that could take a lot of time, but Unity installed, and you would ask for me like to build something, probably like 40 minutes, we would have something running, starting. Like from like unpacking the device and plugging it. And that's the goal. We want to show how easy it is to actually, you know the pain point, Eric, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, in Italian we say you're destroying an open door. It's fine. It's great that other people share. But I would like to underline. I mean, it's good that you share about the standardization points. I mean, for our listeners, check out the Chris episodes from Immersion, like number 17, I believe, and he spent like a big amount of time to share why this makes sense, and it's great to hear also from other opticians that are building companies and devices that would like to function in the ecosystem. This is a kind of a big deal and would allow interoperability with their competitors' devices. So that makes a bigger pie for everyone, and maybe even a haptics game in the future. Antoine, yes, we probably will, because we are a secret press release coming up for the standards in sometimes, and that addressed really this point. And yeah, it's great to hear this. Thanks a lot for sharing your vision of the future of haptics. Maybe we can ask you, Antoine, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Honestly would be the easiest way for that person. Like, if you're on Twitter, I usually answer on Twitter. If you're on LinkedIn, I do as well. You could connect through the haply.co website. You connect directly with Haply. You could connect through my personal website. That all of those like are legit points, and I try my best to answer all the email I get. I usually, like, if you send an email, you may have like a 1 week delay, but I try my best to keep it short. Yeah, I guess so. Around the table has the same.
So Twitter or LinkedIn's your best bet.
I think LinkedIn is probably your best bet, or Twitter, I would say.
Awesome. And what's your personal website? Because you've got some interesting haptics projects listed there. What's the URL for that?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky because my last name is not easy to spell, but it's Antoine.Weill-Duflos.fr. So it's just Google my name; it should appear in the list. That's going to be easy.
Awesome.
Yeah, I did list my previous life as a researcher. So most of the projects are like not currently being worked on, I would say. But yeah, if you have questions about those, I'm also happy to answer. Like, I do have a duality of industry and research. One fit in each spot.
So you're a fellow from France. That's perfect. We recognize the French ending. So this ties up really well this episode. So for our listener of the podcast, right now we enter in the most interesting part where we open up the question for the public. So we'll give the mic to anyone in the audience that would like to share. For you that you are in the podcast, don't forget to follow us on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and join our newest Haptics community on Discord. You will find the link on the top right of our website, www.thehapticsclub.com, not affair.com. And on the top right, you'll have the Discord community. You're welcome to join. All of the Haptics crews is there, and we are trying to build this open communication in haptics that is desperately needed to share ideas and best practices. And guys, see you next time.